Before we begin today's episode, we wanted to announce that we have officially launched our Patreon, where you can find exclusive content, engage with North Coast, and get access to perks like recordings from live shows, freestyle tips and tricks, and Patreon-only episodes. Whoa, you're getting access. For top-tier patrons, we'll even have pre-order links for live events and virtual freestyle lessons. Sign me up. So visit patreon.com/North Coast Podcast and help your favorite hip-hop improv team thrive.
Yo. Welcome to the North Coast Podcast, everybody.
Hey.
I'm here with my whole squad. I'm Ralf Jean-Pierre, aka Precious Gorgeous. We got Dr. Brick on the beats.
I'm Billy Soco.
I'm Mel Rubin.
And I'm the Duggernaut, Douglas Widick. How you doing?
Yes. We're a hip-hop improv podcast. We do comedy, we do raps, and we also interview cool, awesome guests. And today is no different. We got a lady here who's so awesome and so bodacious. Truly one of my favorite comics in the city. Podcaster, host of the Hot Mess Comedy Hour, host of Dog Pig. We have the awesome Andrea Allan here.
Hey. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Is it Andrea or Andrea?
Andrea.
Just about
Andrea.
Yeah. I've probably made that mistake so many times.
Oh, it's okay. You can call me whatever.
At karaoke, I probably said it wrong so many times.
Oh, Ralph, you see me hammered at karaoke, trying to take my shirt off. Ralph has known me for pre-sober and post-sober, so you know me in a way that most people don't.
Yeah. Man.
Are you currently sober?
Yes, yeah, I've been sober for 8 years.
Oh,
Wow.
Congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you.
That's wonderful.
But you were doing karaoke sober too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are like, is she drunk? Why is she
Yeah,
rolling
I
on
never
the
noticed
floor?
the difference.
This woman has just been drinking seltzer the whole night. This is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that we shared that. I mean, I'm not sober. I guess I am lifelong sober. But
Yeah. I definitely had some of I remember I used to do the song Bad Reputation by Joan Jett, and I would get like really deeply into it. Yeah. And then one time I took my shirt off, which was a pretty regular occurrence. Also, Ralph used to like really hype up.
Yes.
The energy in Ralph's karaoke is definitely like take your shirt off energy.
Okay.
I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've witnessed it as well.
It's wild. He's exceptionally good at it.
Are we in Koreatown? Where are we right now?
No, Bushwick, New York,
Bushwick.
Cobra Club.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
A
Kings of
great
karaoke. This is years ago.
Yeah, you were so good. You were wearing overalls. You're still wearing overalls.
Still.
To
this day.
Consistency, baby.
Yeah.
And my shirt is off, so that's weird.
Yeah.
So I took my shirt off, and then I started to unhook my bra, and a bunch of my friends in the audience were like, no, and they started like running up to the stage. So that is a keystone memory of
good friends.
Yeah, they were great friends. Yeah.
Wow, it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when I saw you do stand-up, there was a level of freedom there that was equivalent to this karaoke freedom you're discussing.
To the shirt removal in a public place, yeah.
Yeah. And I just was like I'm starstruck right now, and I am because of that stand-up performance.
Wow.
Like, it was that good.
I agree with
gosh.
that. I think it might have been the same stand-up
Nice.
show. Maybe it was a different one, but I'll
Like
never
a
forget
year
you
ago?
turned.
Yeah.
It was like a year ago, or maybe less than a year ago.
Yeah.
You turned to face the wall and did a solid 6 minutes, just you and the wall, and
Yeah.
I've just never been more drawn to look at the stage, even though there was no direct eye contact. I was like, holy shit, this is so good. Like, I felt like I was in the presence of just, I don't know, comedy
Greatness.
genius.
Greatness.
Yeah, I really did.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it, but you know what?
Of an
It was greatness. It was
incredible
really great.
voice of a
It was really great.
generation who's still doing open mics.
really good.
Yes.
Cool.
Oh my God. Someone at your
That's
level
awesome.
still doing open mics?
I like to work on things.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's
I
awesome.
love the open mic. There's
Yeah.
no stakes. People say wild shit because they're new. You get to witness, a few weeks ago, I actually hosted an open mic at Cobra Club, and a few weeks ago, a guy was talking about how his dad died, and he was trying to unlock his dad's phone, which I didn't even think about the fact that you have to do that kind of stuff when someone passes. and he said he was at the like where the place where they put makeup on dead people. Morgue for $500, and he was holding his dad's phone, and the mortician was like, we could maybe try to do the finger thing.
This is in a movie. This is part.
No, the person was saying this at an open mic.
I know, but this happened in a movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Where they like they literally do it from the casket. Like it's an open casket. What is this? Oh, this is gonna bother me.
That's incredible. And just wait, it gets worse than that. So they like pry out the like fucked up hand, do it. It doesn't work, and then the mortician is like, why don't we try the face recognition?
No.
And it also didn't work.
Oh my god.
Because his dad was all puffy and dead. And I live to hear things like that. Like, I'm like, I want to work on my bits. I also want to hear about you trying to unlock your dead dad's phone.
I think it was in
face.
I think it was in Dead to Me, the Netflix show Dead to Me with Christina
Oh,
Applegate.
I loved that
I think
show.
that's in the first season.
Yeah.
I think they're like going. I could be wrong, but that's sticking out to me as like what would happen in that show.
Do you think Apple
This is
has
gonna
like
kill
a thing like, all right, we gotta give them like a range of dead face, and then if it's a little too dead face,
Yeah, right.
you're not getting in there.
Did he ever get in?
Huh?
Did they ever get in to the
No,
phone?
they had
No,
to like
they
go to Apple, and I'm sure this happens. There's probably a department of
Yeah.
like dead phone dude. Yeah.
Apple Department of Bereavement.
Yeah. First of all, sorry for your loss. Second of all, you're about to see the weird shit is on your family's phone. Their families, you know. Yeah.
So you host one still, you hear all sorts of fucked up crazy things.
Yeah.
I think there's a level of humility required to keep going to like
Yes.
open
That's what I
mics.
want to tell you. I think that's fucking so dope.
That's
dude.
why I hosted it. Well, number one, I mean, I don't know. Improv, I guess, must have suffered way more than stand-up in the pandemic because you are required to collaborate, whereas we could, like, take a microphone into a park, which is deeply mentally ill, and I can't believe we all did that. It's insane. But, like, there was a whole crop of like pandemic comedians who started like under a bridge in 2020, which is very admirable and clinically insane. But I just felt a disconnection from the stand-up community. A lot of people quit from my like group of friends and people that I knew.
Wow.
And I didn't know where anything was. My favorite like workout room, the Creek in the Cave, closed.
Yep.
I had no home. I had no central location. And I was like, I need to work on things. I find it disrespectful to try completely new premises on people's shows. Like, you can work in some new stuff and, you know, like, do well enough, get a rapport with the crowd. But I'm like, I'm not going to treat someone's show like an open mic.
Wait, this is so interesting. So when you get put on other people's shows,
Yes.
it's like a established show.
Yeah.
You will never try out new material unless you've gotten a chance to workshop it at an open mic. Is that kind of like how it works with stand-up? Like
Not
with,
all stand-ups.
Okay. But for you specifically.
For me specifically,
That's so interesting to me.
Yeah, I also have like 7-minute long bits.
Yeah.
I'm rolling around on the floor. You guys saw that. Like, that takes a long time to figure out. So, you know, I need a workspace, and I have no, like, you know, I have no ego. You can't have any ego as a stand-up comedian. It's a humiliating pursuit. So it's like, you just have to be like, all right, I'm hosting an open mic at a dive bar.
I think that's the shit. Man, I respect that so much.
Oh,
I
thank you.
respect that attitude of just like, oh, yeah, I have credits. I have whatever. I need to work on my shit.
Always.
Wherever, however, like, whenever, like, as an improviser, whenever I see another improviser, like, at a drop-in or at a jam, and I know their experience, I'm like, fucking Jedi. Like, I respect that so much.
I mean, you see people who start to rest on their laurels, and then they get hack, and they get boring, and you can tell they don't care, and I'm terrified of that. As like a working, you know, creative. I'm like, you're dead then. Yeah. So.
You won't even be able to get into your own phone anymore.
No, you'll be in a morgue.
Where does the rolling around on the floor lineage come from? Because stand-up is so like, I'm talking, but you're facing the back wall. You're doing like half Gaffigan inner voice mixed with like performance art, Marina Abramovic, but then it's so uniquely you.
I appreciate that.
Where does that, who inspires you to go that direction?
Nobody. No, there's a few like key people along the way who I've been like, oh. So Stuart Lee, are you familiar with Stuart Lee?
I've heard that name before. Is Brit?
Yeah, he's a UK comic, very alt, and I discovered my brother sent me his stuff, and he does stuff where he like breaks the fourth wall a lot and gets mad at the audience when they're a shitty crowd and is like, I'm a failure. Like, I love there are so many stand-up moments or performance moments where it's like not going well, and the funnier thing is to acknowledge the situation at hand or your vulnerability and embarrassment as a human being. There are stand-ups who are pure like joke writers. I call them like operators because they're so good. They just like crank out fucking jokes and they're so concise and there's no fat to what they're doing. But as performers, those people are sometimes like hard to connect to because they can't read energy in a room. Like for me, I'm like sitting in the room, I'm taking note of what the different groups are like, how they respond. Do they like this type of material, like that type of material? Does this thing work with them? So like I saw Stuart Lee and I was like, oh, there's no rules. Like we think there's rules to each art form, and it's just like, no, connect with an audience. That's your main thing. And then also this guy's such a like toxic inspiration to have because if he were alive today, he would be a nightmare. But do you know Sam Kinison?
Oh yeah,
at all?
I knew you were gonna say
Yeah,
Kinison.
I mean, come
Damn.
on.
Yeah.
So Sam Kinison, for those who don't know, is a stand-up who in the 80s was like the fucking rock and roll comic. He was wearing bandanas.
Trench
he
coat,
was,
cocaine.
Yeah, he was walking women around on dog leashes, which is insane.
I could see you doing that in reverse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, let me be sexist in the opposite manner, because that's okay. I can do misandry until men stop murdering me. I can have biases against them.
Yeah.
But he did his first late night appearance. He went up to an audience member and like screamed in their face.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know you could do that. And everyone was just like taken aback by that. Like, I have a love for like a comics comic. And comics like care the most about like the actual art form themselves. Usually they die alone, broke, and no one cares. But I do feel like I must not move forward. The art form is too self-important, but like I want to explore its limits, and I've always felt that way about it. You know,
There's no fucking rules at all.
There's
no fucking rules
at all. There's
no fucking rules
at all.
There's no
fucking rules at all.
This is Limitless. Sam Kinison, scream in your face. Never done this before on the bass, on the beat of this podcast. But I'm talking into the camera. You know this fun will last. There's no rules, like a spool that's unspooling. You know I'm feeling hot. No, I'm feeling coolin' because I'm gonna go do my own thing on stage. I'm gonna rewrite the comedy book page by page.
There's no fucking rules at all. 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 Break that fourth wall. Yes, y'all. Cancel when I call. Yeah, I'm gonna dog walk. Gonna dog walk your ass. Just like Sam Kinison. When I come through and I'm gonna start grinning. And you know I'm gonna show my ass. You know I'm gonna take it off. You know I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna unhook this bra. There's no fucking rules at all. I'm at karaoke, son. I'm at the open mic. I'ma go for my son.
There's no fucking rules at all. There's no fucking rules at all. There's no fucking rules at all.
The audience.
There's no fucking rules at all.
Yo, things are getting wild in this place. Comedians hopping off the stage and screaming in your face. Yeah, they're going crazy, and yes, you love it all. Hey, that comedian up there, she just spent 5 minutes looking at the wall. Her name is Andrea. Say it, Andrea, and if you do know what's right, you come in at her like a player. No, she is flipping. Yes, she is it, and she is gonna change all the rules to this shit.
There's no fucking rules at all. 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 Oh my God, did you see that? They yelled in their face.
What?
Can you believe that spilled wine all over the place.
No.
My word, this isn't a show. I need to go. They are not slow. They are too fast. They're doing jokes back to back, and I hate it. It's giving other people a heart attack, so I hate it. Right out this place. I hate it. Get out my face. These comedians are not doing what I expect them to do. Oh,
There's no fucking rules at all. We're moving.
There's no fucking rules at all. There's no fucking rules at all. There's no fucking rules at all.
This is a podcast. We're not supposed to be getting up and looking at the camera.
There are no rules.
Hey!
I want you guys to follow me around my apartment every day and like hype me
Yeah.
up to get out of bed.
Yeah.
The speed with which I would be your full-time assistant slash, like, I would be behind you being like, her. Like,
Bitch. Oh my God, when I get rich, you are going to be on full staff, all of you.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Job security.
Yeah. I'll get you health insurance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we were to follow you around for a day, hypothetically,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
what is a day in the life?
Oh my God, I was actually biking over here today because I remember in another pod you did, you were like asking a person about their day. And I was like, God, I had the most like stand-up day imaginable slash like wacky person. Like I'm a eccentric person and I don't really like to live in the way that most people do. So today I was up till 5 writing and then I slept till 2 p.m. And my boyfriend called me twice to make sure I was alive. Shout out to Dan.
Shout out
Shout
to
out to
Dan.
Dan the man.
Dan the man.
Sure.
Dan the stable guy. And I was like, I'm fine. I was just up till 5. And then my best friend came over because she just went to a funeral and we talked about death for about 20 minutes or so.
Did they unlock any phones or?
No. I was like, oh, you knew the story about this dead guy's phone?
You got up and did like a tight five.
Yeah,
just like
I
in the-
was like, and then
You
the
guys will never believe
face, and then the hand. Neither worked. And then I made a smoothie. That was my breakfast around 6. And then I biked over here in the freezing cold to
Damn
meet
it,
you
I relate
guys.
so much.
Whoa.
Yeah. So like none of this. I was like, and I have more normal days, but
Yeah.
this is also definitely a type of day I have where it's like you're the first people I've talked to, except for my friend, and we talked about death.
Yeah.
And then she left my apartment. So yeah, it was pretty
Wow.
good. It was a
Wow.
good day.
It's a good day.
Yeah.
Man, I want to talk about. I want to talk about podcasts because
Yes.
you've been a big in the podcast game for
I
a
love
long
the
time.
podcast game.
What is that like for you? Is that more business or more creative for you?
Podcasting?
Yeah.
Oh, podcasting is like so creative. I mean, it's both. Podcasting is certainly a much more like it's an art form that has a clear path or you have more control over it. It's like do a good podcast, make the clips, book the good guests. Like there's a system to it. But not necessarily. To me, I think podcasting, stand-up, improv, all the creative arts, if the art form is good and you like what you're doing, then it'll naturally get more attention and grow. But I do think, podcasting is much more technical. We have to have cameras all the time now. I had to put lipstick on today. But yeah, I love I mean, I've been listening to podcasts since I was 14. I was actually a huge fan of a podcast called Keith and the Girl, which is still happening.
Yeah.
And
Isn't that the longest running podcast?
It is, yes.
Wow.
And I was their
Wow.
producer for several years. I
Oh,
also
wow. Hey.
inducted them into the Podcasting Hall of Fame, which is a real thing.
It's
That is in
awesome.
Philadelphia.
Whoa.
Wait,
So
what is the? Sorry.
No.
What is it about?
So Keith and the Girl was a show. It's like pre-Rogan. Like Mark Maron went on Keith and the Girl and was like, "Oh, I should do a podcast." Like this is how early on it
Yeah.
was, and They were dating when they started it. It was like the woman, the girl. Her name is Chemda. And she used the girl because she's Middle Eastern and her parents are conservative, so she didn't want them to like know that she was out there doing free speech stuff. And so Keith is the guy, and he's a stand-up or was a stand-up. And so they just started podcasting out of their apartment. You know, this was like back in the day where we had like giant PCs and we were like burning CDs on
Whoa.
them, like that kind of time period.
Wow.
Cool time.
Dr. Brick, do you know what a CD is?
Yeah, I do.
Just checking.
It's like an album, but shittier.
Got it.
But I started listening to them. My brother gave. You guys remember the iPod? I'm really aging myself. You guys remember the iPod with the wheel that actually manually turned?
So good.
Num num num. So tactile and better. But my brother uploaded like episodes of this podcast for me, which is wildly inappropriate now in retrospect. They were talking about like, you know, getting fucked up and like, you know, they would talk openly about their relationship. And this is what I really liked is they would have comedians on, but they would also talk about their life as creative people. So like they were party clowns to make money. They would talk about doing gigs at like weird rich people's houses.
Whoa.
And he was an alcoholic and they would have like open fights about his drinking problem. And like she, you know, she was going into all these art spaces and performing music. She was like going on tour with like Def Jam type group. These were just like creative adults speaking openly about their lives. And I was over in Canada being like, holy shit, who are these fucking people? Like, I've never heard people talk like this. Like, adults don't talk like this. Like, I don't get to like hear two grown-ups be like, I hate your drinking and I want to leave you. Like, that's a crazy conversation.
Wow.
And they would interview stand-ups. Stand-ups would come to their house, which is in Briarwood. And if you know anything about Queens, that's like almost Long Island deep.
Yeah.
So people would come after their spots, and, you know, it would be stand-ups that are now like, you know, icons and industry legends. And I would hear them talking about their lives, and I was just so drawn to it. So I listened to that podcast forever. Like, anyone who's ever known me, you know that it was on in the background. Like, I'd have roommates and I'd be, she's listening to that fucking podcast again. Turn it off. It's 4 a.m. And so I just like, I felt connected to them. I felt connected to stand-ups and New York. And so when I moved to New York, I started to like hang out with them. They'd have like meetup groups. This is like when meeting up with people on the internet was like very weird and like shameful.
Meetup.com.
Yeah, kind of. That was the energy. Like, yeah, like Craigslist-y almost.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we would go to like bars, we would see stand-up, we would play bingo, we did all these like cool things, and there was this really weird like cult community built around this podcast, and it was my whole social life. I would hang out with them. I was their intern for a while, and then I was their producer when I started doing podcasting full-time.
Wow.
And so they kind of were like my introduction into my current world, and also my introduction into podcasting. And like, that was the first time I had had a parasocial relationship, which is so normal now. But like, I was obsessed with them. I was obsessed with their relationship. They had like, they were kind of Howard Stern-esque, and that they had like Whack Pack type characters. So they had reoccurring people. There was like a 14-year-old who was crazy who would like show up at their house.
Was that you at the time?
No.
Is it based on?
Yeah, I was.
I'm
then-
in Briarwood.
that was me at 20 being like,
Yeah.
I'm hungover
Yeah.
and I'm in Briarwood burning CDs for these people.
Dr. Brick.
Dr. Brick,
And being
CD?
like, CD? Album? Small.
Did they have a name for this group of people that would meet up together?
No, there was no like Keith and the Girl Heads
Okay.
type thing. I can't remember. But
Or
I'm
like, was there a name for the meetups themselves, or was it just like,
they would like
bingo night?
sell tickets to some of it, like on their website.
Yeah.
Like, this is pre-Eventbrite, all this stuff.
Yeah.
They had Keith and the Girl Week, which was like a big thing. Like every week, once a year, Keith would do stand-up, and so that was like the main event. But they had a week of events, and like people would fly from different countries, and
Yeah.
like you'd meet these internet weirdos that you were talking to on like forums. And they would do events in like different spaces. Like, we're in Dumbo right now. Like, one year they rented out a loft space in Dumbo, and like every night we would just like party, and like there'd be stand-up shows, there would be variety shows, whatever type thing they put together. But it was a week of you know, these fans like coming together, and you know, I made lifelong friends, I made lifelong enemies. Yeah, it was just like, I've always seen stand-up and podcasting as separate things that are equal to me, for sure. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed by people who think that podcasting is just putting a couple mics in a room. Like, it's so much work.
Are you talking about stand-up comedians?
Yes.
Yeah, because we think we're so fucking interesting.
No, but it's just so much work. Like,
Yes.
even if it's a talkie podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at this whole thing. It's an
Yeah.
entire production. You're managing a bunch of different people. You're booking. You're like, it's its own art form that has so many moving parts.
And then the
Yeah.
post stuff. I mean, then the arc, it's a ton
The
of stuff.
feeds, the
Edits, yeah.
scheduling, it's a nightmare.
I feel like 99% of podcast fans don't even know what an RSS feed is.
How dare they?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I keep saying that. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
We found out now that Ralph does the least work in the
I
room.
don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys have been putting the
I'm a pretty
podcast up?
face.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I wanted to say we've known each other like probably a decade.
Yeah.
And
Wild.
I'm just now realizing in this conversation, before you came over, I was like, man, Andrea and I are so different. And now I'm thinking as you're talking, I'm like, wow, I relate to so many things you're saying, like the obsessiveness and like the
Yeah.
listening to all the podcasts and like, oh yeah, I'm still gonna do open mics. How many years into stand up are you now?
I think I'm. It depends if you count the pandemic, because stand-ups are very standoffish about how long we've done it because we don't feel successful enough. But I think it's 8,
8.
counting the pandemic. So yeah, I
Wait, so that would mean you weren't doing stand up when I met you? Oh
no.
Wow.
Mm-mm. I would hang out at
You
shows.
were in the fashion world then?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Wow,
I would
did
go to
not
shows
realize that.
all the time. There's like several of my friends' album recordings where you can hear me laughing in the background. But I was not I just hung out with stand-ups.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not see. I didn't know that either.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness gracious.
I know.
That's so wild that you can know anybody for a long period of time and really know so little about them.
Oh yeah. Also in New York, people go through like genesis of like who they are. So you've known like 6 versions of me, and likewise
Yeah.
of
Let's
you.
go down the list. If that's
For reals?
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For reals.
All right. Oh my gosh. Okay. New to New York, Andrea, 18, blonde. I'm a natural blonde.
Coming from where?
Whoa.
Real
Yeah.
quick, where were you coming from?
Vancouver, Canada.
Which is where you were born, grew up?
Yeah,
Vancouver.
yeah.
Amazing.
I'm
Okay,
the
great.
Couve. I'm from the Couve.
From the Couve. Okay.
Shout out to all the West Coasties out there. Blonde, Ugg boots, North Face jacket.
Yep.
Deeply insecure, terrified, and had no friends. Like when you move to New York alone, it's always really, really hard.
Yeah.
But particularly when you're like 18, because you don't even know how to like do anything. I was like, my mommy makes me bagel. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then I was like in the most vicious, difficult city, and I hated it for a while. Yeah, and I had no friends. I would go to the park by myself and like try to talk to people.
What was did you have like a line that you would use?
No, I don't remember. I used to go to the dog park and be like, cool dog.
So you would talk to people alone in a dog park
Yes.
without a dog.
I had no friends. It's a profoundly lonely thing that I don't think a lot of people can experience.
Yeah.
Because I went to Parsons, I went to a design school, but people at Parsons were so mean. It's such a vicious, like Nepo baby filled, cocaine addled place. And I wasn't that person, so I immediately was like, I don't fit in here, so I need to go find people. So I would go clubbing by myself.
Dude, we are so similar.
You turn around, we're just face swapped.
Holy shit. Okay.
But yeah, no, we're definitely very similar. We're very like
Yeah.
charismatic, open people.
Thank you.
And so,
So that's phase 1, blonde and lonely.
blonde and
Yeah.
lonely.
Okay.
Then I started making friends. I made friends with like NYU students and a bunch of musicians. I hung with musicians for a long time. I was like a groupie. I love music. I'm also like deeply into music, CDs, smaller albums.
Take notes. Dr. Brooke.
Dr. Brick, a.k.a. CD Baby.
Oh, that's so cute. So I had an angled bob. I dyed my hair black, and I had like a white streak. I was wearing like combat boots and like, a lot of rings. I was
Was
definitely
it like KGB bar energy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, oh my God, so many of them were closed. Glasslands. There was a bunch of there was a music era in Williamsburg, particularly like indie sleaze, kind of DIY shit, Market Hotel. And I was also just in love with every boy I met. And especially like cool goth musicians. I put in a lot of time being in open relationships with men who disrespected me. Yeah, and also I think I was probably the most deeply insecure at that point in time, because I was just like hanging out with dudes who were really cool but also misogynists, and I just wanted them to like me, and so I was just like, I'll come to every show, I'll do everything. You guys are so cool. You don't need to date me. You can just fuck me for like 4 years, and that's fine. I'm casual. I was definitely very like, I'm cool with anything kind of person back then, and also my alcoholism was getting pretty serious. I had a lot of fun. I have a lot of positive memories from that. Like, it's a darker period of my life, but also like I had a lot of fun stuff. I got tackled by the cops.
Hell yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You know.
Angled Bob and tackled by the cops.
Yeah.
Angled Bob,
Tackled by the cops. Okay. Angled Bob. No rules.
Tackled by the cops. Angled Bob, tackled by the cops. Oh yeah, I'm at Marco Hotel. Everybody is under my spell. I'm here, got these combat boots. Oh yeah, girl, this girl looking cute. He's a skinny little emo boy. He's really gonna be my toy. I'ma show him how I get down. And I hope that he wants me around.
Angle Bob, tackled by the cops.
Thank you.
Angle Bob, tackled by the cops. Angle Bob, tackled by the cops. Angle Bob, tackled by the cops. Oh no. That sucks, but it's okay. I'm an Aeon flux with my angle bob.
Hey.
Looking so sweet.
Hey.
And this is how we do it. Get up on your feet, cause I stole $1 million from the bank yesterday. And the cops are after me, so we gotta go away.
Hey.
Hurry up, let's go steal this car and travel very, very far.
Angle Bob, tackled by the cops. Angle Bob, tackled by the cops. Angle Bob, tackled by the cops.
Angle Bob, tackled by the cops.
Oh no, I got tackled. This is no fun. I missed the blonde in me from phase 1. Now I'm on to phase 2. Oh, what did I do? Now I'm gonna land in the slammer. Oh, poo, that's shitty. This sucks. This city. What the fuck? I don't wanna be here. I gotta get over. Go back, take me back to Vancouver.
Angle Bob, tackled by the cops.
Angle Bob, tackled by the cops. Angle Bob, tackled by the cops. Angle Bob,
Tackled by the cops. You know me. I'm a sweetie. Catch me at KGB with NYPD. Oh yes, you know I'm not a slob. I'm dating the singer of Seosin and I got an angular bob. Ooh, I got my Doc Martens. And that fun, you know it's starting. And I'm gonna have sex, but 1 second I am farting. I don't know what I'm saying. That was bad. I'm gonna go back like that. And I'm turning it. Oh yeah, but no, single bob is a fad.
Angle Bob, tackled by the cops.
Phase 2.
Angle Bob, tackled by the
What
cops.
I do.
Angle Bob, tackled by the cops.
Oh, tackled by the
Bob,
Tackled by the cops.
Officer, hand me a drink, please.
All right, we have 4 more phases to go.
Yeah, we do. That's probably my favorite thing that's happened within the last few months.
Yeah.
Nice. I love
Yeah.
that.
Hell
Thanks,
yeah.
guys.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, fuck cops. But I was just trying to pee outside, you know, outside of a warehouse. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
But I think the next phase was like the darkest and then the breakaway from the darkest. It was a very transitional phase. So I also was working in fashion during this time, and fashion is an awful, hostile environment, just a breeding ground for low self-esteem and making no money and working like so much. so I was like working in fashion, and I had these fashion friends who were actually enemies.
Is it too early to do another song?
I know. I saw you guys get excited. I saw that ruffle your little feathers.
So TV and movies are right then.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Like the Devil
Wears Prada.
is extremely accurate. It's not.
documentary.
It's not even exaggerated.
Yeah.
It's so sad. Everyone's so mean. And so I had all these fashion friends, and they just like weren't my friends. You know what I mean? They were like people that I was drunk around. And then I was becoming more and more of a problem. I moved in with like 4 of them, and we lived in this like big loft. And they all, I mean, I'll take accountability here. I was getting more and more booze-addled and a nightmare. And they also like didn't care about the fact that I wasn't doing well. They cared about the fact that I was like annoying and fucking their shit up. So I was like losing the keys to the apartment, bringing different dudes home every night. Like I wasn't a good roommate. I know that. But I also got like sexually assaulted during that time, and like they like attacked me for it. If this makes like, you know, when people say like people attack victims, and you're like, no way.
Yeah.
And the way it went down was like, I was out with one of them, and we were both insanely drunk. And then I met a guy out, and he was buying us more booze. He was a much older guy, just a creepy old dude. And then we went home together, and I barely remembered it, and it was a really bad experience. And I told a person in our social group about it, and he was like, well, why didn't the friend that you were with like do anything? And I was like, it's not her responsibility. Like, yes, in one universe, it would have been cool if she was less drunk and had been like, hey, man, you're not coming home. Look at her. Like, she's barely walking. But I was like, yeah, it would have been cool if that happened. But it's not her responsibility what happened. And then he turned around and told her that I like blamed her for it, which is so fucked up. Yeah. And like, I didn't think about that for a long time, especially like post Me Too. I like thought about that, and I was like, that was so fucked up. And she was mad at me. She was like, I'm so mad at you for like blaming, that on me. I mean, it was like, this person was not a great person and had complicated issues. But so then like, I became like the pariah of the group, and they would like hang out in my apartment and not acknowledge me.
No.
And one of the dudes that I was really close with was dating a girl in the group, and he was cheating on her, and he tried to like get me to like hide it for him. And I was just like, fuck you, man. I'm not hiding this for you. Like, I was my most dirtbally because I was around these people, and this is something that I've learned over and over again, is like, you really are the product of the people that you spend time with.
100%.
And so I didn't like who I was, but I think I still had like a good heart, and these people were like really shitty to me. I felt like I was being high school bullied, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like 24. Like, this is not life. And so they eventually like soft launched kicking me out of the apartment.
Beta test.
Yeah.
Did they all come out in black turtlenecks? Like,
They had a meeting once where like, we got to talk. And I was like, you all hate me. What do you want me to like? I already know you hate me. Do you want me to like beg you to not hate me? This is humiliating.
wow.
And so I did leave. And again, to their to give them, to give perspective, I was just so difficult in terms of just like being unreliable, being a mess, causing drama. And like, I called some girl a bitch, which she's a total bitch. But, like, that's my problem too, is I'm a really honest person. And if I don't like you, I will say it to your face. But like, when you're a sloppy drunk, it's not executed in a tactful manner.
And just for memory reasons, what was your hairstyle during this?
What was my
Good
hairstyle
call.
during this? It's been black since the angled bob, but I think it was like a shag, probably, like a grown out. There was no blonde streak anymore, but I was also wearing like a leopard print fur coat.
Incredible.
That is very that era.
I like how there was a streak, so you phased it out at some point.
I
Okay.
phased it out. I phased in the leopard,
Wow.
American Apparel, black dress, cowboy boots. Very like, I don't know, Girl Interrupted energy going on. That movie, I relate to that movie so much, it scares me to watch it. But then I like ruined my life. I mean, this is such a like addict story. We hear it over and over again. I was like, I ruined my life. I don't have any friends. I have nothing. I don't like my job in and I built my whole life around like working in fashion and like, oops, I hate it. And it was just like, I have nothing. I am so lonely. I have no one. I don't have anything. And so I started doing stand-up because I was like, all right, I just need people to hang out with, really. And like, I've always wanted to do this thing. And so I just started going to open mics by myself. It was kind of another like, all right, let's go out into the world and like fucking talk to weirdos because you have nothing. And then immediately I started doing stand up and I was like, this is the thing. Like, this is where I was meant to be. I also like always was hanging out with these podcasters and hanging out with these comedians. I think I wanted to be that person, but I didn't have the balls. Mm-hmm. And I was also like embarrassed I wanted to be cool, and comedy and performing seemed cringe. And I didn't want to admit that I liked that, and I didn't want to admit that I like wanted to be this person. Always like suppressing my inner theater kid because I'm like embarrassed by it. So then I was like, well, I have no one, and now I'm meeting all these people, and I feel so accepted. Yeah. Like I've never related more to people than stand-up comedians. They're my favorite people to talk to. Get that. Yeah. So then the next phase I will say is stand-up comedy in Queens. Pesto sandwiches, and I'll explain this.
This is phase 4 now?
Phase 4.
Okay, so we went from fashion phase, streak phased out shag into phase 4 Queens.
Pesto sandwiches.
I feel like the Marvel trajectory mirrors this.
My favorite phases.
And wine, a lot of wine. So I started to go to this I was scared of comedy open mics. You guys know comedians. We're the meanest, most hostile. We're so mean and scary.
So scary.
We're so scary.
So mean, in fact, that stand-ups do not call improvisers comedians. You're like, you know what comedians...
we hate you.
Yes.
And like, you don't care. You're like, we're just having a good time. And we're like, fuck you.
Yeah.
What you do is not valid. We're the real artists. We're so insufferable in this way.
Love it.
But I was scared of comedians. Like, also, comedy was so much more male-dominated than it is now. And it's still male dominated, but it was like a period of time where like it was insanely male dominated. In order to survive and thrive as a woman, you had to be such a traitor. You had to be like, oh my God, fuck other girls. Like I didn't want to do that. And also I knew I wasn't good. Like, you guys have seen the current stand-up that I am, which is a very experienced person, but like, rolling around on the floor when you don't even know how to write a punchline is like a very weird thing. Like, I'm very alt as a comedian, and I feel like straight stand-up spaces were not welcoming to the type of development that I needed to do.
Wow.
I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of like real comedians, which real comedians are at open mics. Mm-hmm. You'll see like people with late night credits at open mics. It's just like people who take it seriously want to work on it all the time. So I started going to like fringe, like variety shows, mics that were mixed like poetry, music, musical improv, losers, and stand-ups. I'm sorry, I have to represent. I have to represent my people.
Phase 4 would have thought that way about music.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. And so I started to go to this open mic called the Waltz Astoria, which is now closed. But it was a house in Queens. Like, you would have the last train in Astoria Ditmars. You would go to this house that had like a piano and then a second floor, and it was owned by a couple. And their grandmother, the woman's mother, ran the like bar upstairs, and she would just make pesto sandwiches and like glasses of wine. And like, that was like, I would look forward to it I was like, oh, this week I can have like 10 glasses of wine and that bomb-ass pesto sandwich and do my stand.
Bread and pesto?
There was chicken on it.
Okay.
Pesto chicken sandwiches. Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
But what did your hair look like?
I don't even know at that point. Probably my current long black. And I was just like getting better at stand-up and hanging out with these new friends I had in Queens. I love Queens. There's something so like suburban about it and like safe. So I was like hanging out in Queens, doing stand-up, going to parties with these like art people, and like actually pursuing stand-up in a serious manner. And it was like, I was so happy, and also I felt so at home and comfortable, and there was finally something I really gave a fuck about in a very serious way. So I stopped drinking around that time because I was like, you're a sloppy mess and you can't be doing this. You're trying to like get better at a thing, and there's no time. You have a full-time job. You podcast on the weekends. You're doing stand-up at night. Like, there's no space for booze in this.
So you showed up at the bar. You're like, just pesto.
Just give me a glass of pesto with a side of chicken raw.
Nice.
I'll eat it in the back.
So
and
this is when it got real. This is when you said, I'm actually going to do this
yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's phase 4.
And then I think phase 5 is now.
Oh, so not 6.
Yeah. Sorry, 5, I guess. I
Okay.
mean, maybe, you know what? I'll say 5 is working for Keith and the Girl as a producer, starting my own podcast, doing stand-up, and being a sober person, getting into therapy. It was a very, like, butterfly. And during this time, I was wearing a tan leather coat with a big fur collar. And that's how a lot of people remember me. Like, people will be like, I'll look for you in a crowd, and I'll look for like a very tall woman with a tanned coat bopping around.
I think I remember that coat.
Yeah, everyone remembers that coat. I wore that shit till the wheels fell off. It was so covered in cum and blood and every pesto. I carry food around me with bags all the time too, so I'm always like covered in food too, because I'm running around for like hours a day.
You're busy.
Yeah, I'm a busy bitch, and I'm covered in cum and pesto.
She's a busy bitch. Don't
I
you know
am.
her coat is covered in cum and pesto?
She's a busy bitch. Don't you know her coat is covered in cum and pesto?
She's a busy bitch. You know that she like. She's riding around Queens on her motherfucking bike. She is doing that. Can you handle this? Can I get another pesto sandwich?
Oh, yeah. You can get one. Oh, I know who you are. You stand out with that coat. That's leather and tan. It's so good. Oh, what's in your hand?
She's a busy bitch. Don't you know her coat is covered in cum and pesto?
She's a busy bitch. Don't you know her coat is covered in cum and pesto? Let's take a sample of this coat. Let's do the DNA test.
Oh, no. And the sample. Yeah, there is a sandwich. Is that just an ample? I don't know. Here, Ralph.
Try
what's
it again.
I'm going to try to rap about this coat that she had, and it was on CSI. And it's like, that's the guy who died. Don't you know her coat is covered in cum and pesto? She's a busy bitch. Don't you know her coat is covered in cum and pesto?
Thank you so much,
my
Andrea.
God.
Thank
What
you
an
so much for
epic.
coming
Oh,
in.
guys, thank you for having me.
What's coming up for you? What's next, and where can people find you?
All right, so you can follow me on Instagram at AndreaComedy69. That is the central hub for all things Andrea Allan. I have a podcast, The Hot Mess Comedy Hour, and a sex podcast called Dog Pig. So check out either of those. I'm doing a big transition coming up. So launching some new things. So keep your eye on Instagram. That's where you can find everything. And then in the fall of this year, I'm going to record a new hour of stand-up comedy. So
Oh, you have another hour out somewhere?
I'm working on one right now.
Okay, okay.
So I'm going to be touring probably to, get stage time and work on that. So just, I post my shit on there, follow my dates, and see me live. See me roll around on the floor in your town. If I'm there, I'm going to be covered in cum and pesto, rolling around.
She's a busy
the
bitch.
floor.
Don't you know?
And I want to say again, I don't know why I feel tied to your trajectory because I've known you for so long, but you really are. I think there's a lot of great stand-ups in New York, and I think you're one of the best.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God,
I
Ralph,
really
thank
do.
you
Yeah.
so much.
I
You
second
guys are
that. I
so
second that.
nice.
You're-
Oh, my
you're
God.
really awesome. Yeah.
Sure.
I should be nice to
You
improvisers.
should.
We're nice to you.
I
know.
Freaking brutal.
We're so mean. We're also like most of us are talentless assholes, so don't take stand-up
said it.
seriously. Oh, hacks. losers.
There you go.
Mhm.
She's standing by that too.
Mhm.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Follow us at northcoastnyc.com. I'm sorry, at northcoastnyc on Instagram and our website, northcoastnyc.com. Rate and review on Apple Podcasts if you enjoyed the episode.
There are no rules.
There are no rules.
It helps more people find us. And also, if you want to support this podcast, we have a Patreon.
Okay, one rule: support the podcast on Patreon.
And if you don't have any money to support the podcast, you throw us a throw us a subscribe on YouTube, because that'll help the algo pop off.
Write a review for their podcast on Apple Podcasts. It makes a difference. What are you doing?
What are
Jerking
you
off? Come on.
All right. Can't say it any better than that. Thank you.